The schoolyard was loud with the usual chaos of lunchtime chatter, but in the middle of it all stood a silence that felt colder than winter. A new girl walked through the courtyard with her books clutched tightly against her chest, her head lowered as if she wished the concrete would swallow her whole. Her name was Amira Zain, and her very presence seemed to draw unwanted attention. 3 boys leaned against the stone wall nearby, their laughter sharp like knives. Their smirks widened as they watched her steps falter. They were predators circling prey. When one of them suddenly reached out and grabbed her chest, laughter echoing in the air, they thought they were untouchable. What they didn't know was that Amira was a national black belt champion, a fighter who had tasted the discipline of martial arts since childhood. But in that moment, her heart broke more than her fists clenched, because it wasn't the strength of her body she wanted to use, it was the hope of being seen as a person, not an object of ridicule. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength that lies in silence before it rises, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Fearless Grace. It helps more people hear stories that remind us we are stronger together. Amira had transferred to Crestwood High only 2 weeks ago. Her family had moved after her father's small business collapsed, forcing them to start over in a new town. For Amira, it felt like losing a part of her soul. She had left behind her childhood friends, the dojo where she trained every afternoon, and the place where she was known not for her quietness but for her spirit. Here, she was a stranger. Her accent, her modest clothes, and the way she avoided eye contact made her stand out. Students whispered when she walked past. Teachers mispronounced her name. And Amira, though strong on the mats, felt weak in the classroom. The boys who targeted her were not new to cruelty. Leon, the ringleader, carried arrogance like a crown. His friends, Bryce and Tanner, followed him like shadows, always laughing at the pain they caused others. They had mocked smaller students, stolen food from tables, and pushed kids into lockers. But with Amira, their malice turned sharper, because she did not respond. They mistook silence for weakness. The day of the chest grab burned itself into Amira's memory. She had been carrying her lunch, hoping to sit in the corner of the cafeteria, when they blocked her path. Leon smirked and whispered something crude, and before she could move, his hand darted forward, pressing against her chest. Bryce and Tanner burst into laughter. The tray slipped from her hands, food splattering across the floor. Gasps filled the cafeteria. Amira's face burned, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might faint. For a split second, every ounce of training inside her screamed to fight back. She could have broken his wrist in one swift move. She could have sent him sprawling to the ground, but instead, she froze. Because she knew the moment she raised her hand, the narrative would change. She would no longer be the victim, she would be the aggressor. Tears welled in her eyes as she bent to pick up her tray. She could feel dozens of eyes watching, judging, waiting to see if she would explode or collapse. She chose neither. She stood up, walked past them, and left the cafeteria without a word. That night, alone in her room, she wrapped her black belt around her waist and stared at herself in the mirror. She whispered, "Strength is not always in the punch. Sometimes it's in the patience to wait." But patience had its limits. The bullying escalated over the next week. Notes were shoved into her locker, scrawled with disgusting insults. She found her gym shoes stolen, her homework torn. Each act chipped away at her spirit. Teachers turned blind eyes, classmates looked away. Yet Amira endured, hiding her pain from her parents, who already carried enough burdens. Only at night did she allow herself to cry into her pillow, her fists clenched as if holding back the storm inside her. One afternoon, however, the storm broke. It was a bright day, the sun casting long shadows across the schoolyard. Amira was leaving for home when she heard footsteps behind her. Leon and his crew had followed her. They cornered her near the gates, their laughter echoing. Leon leaned close, his words dripping with mockery. "What's wrong, new girl? Too scared to fight back? You're nothing but a coward." His hand reached again toward her chest, that same violation sparking every memory of pain. This time, Amira's patience ended. In a swift motion, years of discipline came alive. She caught his wrist midair, twisting it so fast Leon's smirk turned into a cry of pain. Bryce lunged forward, but Amira sidestepped and swept his legs from beneath him, sending him crashing to the ground. Tanner hesitated, but when he charged, Amira's kick landed square in his stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Within seconds, the bullies lay groaning on the pavement, their arrogance shattered. Gasps filled the crowd that had gathered. Phones recorded every moment. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of Leon pleading for her to let go. Amira released his wrist, her eyes blazing. She didn't shout, didn't curse, didn't gloat. She simply said, "Never touch me again. Never touch anyone again." Then she walked away, leaving behind 3 boys who had finally learned what it felt like to be powerless. The video of that confrontation spread through the school within hours. By evening, it had reached the town. Some students cheered for Amira, calling her a hero. Others criticized her, saying she had gone too far. Teachers called her to the office, questioning her actions. But the truth could not be erased. She had defended herself with dignity and strength. The bullies, once feared, now walked with lowered heads. For Amira, though, the battle was not just physical. It was emotional. She lay awake that night, torn between pride and fear. Had she done the right thing? Would she be punished? Would her parents be disappointed? But when she walked into school the next morning, something unexpected happened. A small group of students approached her, their voices trembling with gratitude. One girl whispered, "Thank you, they used to do the same to me." Another boy said, "You gave us courage." For the first time, Amira felt seen not as the quiet new girl but as someone who mattered. Days turned into weeks, and the story of that moment became part of Crestwood's history. Teachers, forced to acknowledge the bullying, introduced stricter measures. Students began standing up for one another. And Amira, though still quiet, carried herself with a new light. She joined the school's martial arts club, teaching younger kids not just how to fight, but how to respect themselves. The bullies, humbled and humiliated, faced consequences. Leon, once untouchable, had to confront his own weakness. His parents were called, his reputation shattered. In time, he avoided Amira's gaze, unable to meet the eyes of the girl he once mocked. Bryce and Tanner drifted apart from him, their friendship cracked. And though Amira never sought revenge, she knew justice had been served in the only way it could. Her story spread far beyond Crestwood. Local news stations picked it up, calling her the Black Belt Defender. But Amira never cared for titles. What mattered to her was that no girl, no student, should ever feel powerless again. She began speaking in small assemblies, telling her story with honesty. She admitted the fear, the tears, the moments of silence before the storm. And in every room, faces lit up with courage, because they saw in her a reflection of their own hidden strength. And so, Amira's journey became more than survival, it became transformation. She learned that her black belt was not just a symbol of fighting skill but of inner resilience. She discovered that strength was not in fists alone but in the courage to rise after being broken. And most importantly, she found her voice in a place that once tried to silence her. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Fearless Grace. Stories like this remind us that courage doesn't always roar, it sometimes whispers until the moment it must rise. Your support helps bring more stories of resilience and hope to the world. Before we end, I want to ask you something special. Comment below what strength means to you. Is it patience, kindness, standing up, or forgiving? Your words might inspire someone who needs it today.